Good afternoon, everyone. It is Hump Day, Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is my turn to talk. Hello, 100 Yardo Chemists. I am good. I am good. Okay, we're going to get started, and everyone will just join in when they will. Today, I wanted to talk about, I don't know where the conversation is going to go, but how important is God in your life? Is there, quote unquote, a God in your life? Who is he? Is he someone who guides you through life's ups and downs, or do you go it alone? And I also wanted to add, and this is where I think the conversation may start to turn, is hello, daughter of Zion. Um, when I say how, is there a God in your life? What who is God to you? Is he someone who helps you in time of need, or do you use God, for a particular purpose? For me personally, I'm not a overly religious person. I do go to church. Um, uh, I do believe in the Bible. Uh, I believe in the teachings of the Bible. Um, and I am someone who I don't believe that we should go against God's word. But I'm not someone out there who is, if I see someone doing, something that I don't agree with or whatever, I'm not going to run up to them and, have a Bible waving and saying, you're going to go to hell or something like that. But I do believe that there is a God. Um, and I think that in terms of God or religion, we should be respectful of a person's religion and of their God, whoever you may think God may be he, a spiritual being, or, you know, um, whoever it is that you, for the lack of a better word, just say someone that you um, pray to. And whether that be someone that you pray to every night on your knees, or if it's someone that you talk to, during the course of a day. And I find myself sometimes, even when I'm in the store, I'm talking to God. Um, because I do believe that at the end of your life, you are going to face someone. I think that there is a judgment day, and there is going to be a God that we have to answer to. And hello, Rono Sharon 152. I hope I said that correctly. Thank you for joining. So I do believe that, that when our life comes to an end, that there is something or someone that we need to answer to. Um, and in terms of the Bible, and these are just my own personal beliefs, in terms of the Bible, um, I think that when you look at the book of Revelations, I think we are at end of days. I do believe that, God's not very happy with us. And I do believe that in my lifetime, I may very well see, and I had mentioned this on another show, I very well may see um, the end of the world. If you believe in the book of Revelations, which I do, I think that we're on that path. So you can agree with me, disagree, agree with me, but uh that's my own personal belief. I also think that people use God, and I'm going to say quote unquote God, um, in a way to fit their own personal narrative. And what I mean by that, I mean, when you have someone like, what is his name? I do believe is Reverend Phelps, his church or whatever. And you're, in the name of God, you're, standing outside of a funeral and you're holding up signs, saying that, this military person is going to go to hell, or this person is going to go to hell because they're gay. God doesn't like that. I think that's when people use God to fit their own narrative. And in today's society, I think that we see a lot of things happening in the name of God. Um, so who is God, to you? What is he or she to you? Um, how does he fit in your life, or do you even believe in God? Are you an atheist, or maybe I shouldn't even say atheist. Do you just not believe that there's a higher being? Um, and if not, what do you believe? Who do you think created the world? Did it just pop up, or how did we come to being here if there is no God? So that's another question that I would ask. But as you go through life, day to day, and you read the news, or you're uh, talking to your friends and family, um, and you just see that every day is just something else. Every day something else comes up that the world has to deal with, or even you in your personal life, that you have to deal with. Hello, Betty talks. And it seems like that more and more, you know the society is just going backwards. So do we need to start turning to God? And again, hello, Crucible Man, and again, I don't mean, that you're supposed to go out and, be a Bible thumper or anything like that, but are we so wrapped up in what's going on in today's society, today's world, that we kind of left God behind? So, you guys may agree with some things, that I say, and you may not. But for me, as I said before, God does have a place in my life. Um, and he may not always, answer my prayers, and someone once told me that if God doesn't answer your prayers, it means either you're not praying right or asking him for the right things, or you just have to wait, and at times when you do wait, he may not be there when you want him, but like the song says, he's always there right on time. Hello, feisty one. So to me, I just want to ask, who is God in your life? Do you think there is a God? And if so, what do you expect of God? Should we expect anything of him, or should he expect things of us? And I think he should expect things of us. And the route we're going right now, like I said, we're not making him very happy. So, with that note, I've been talking for about 10 minutes now. Does anyone want to come on and say, let's see, Kimma says, I've noticed that we ask more of God than some of us are willing to give him. You are absolutely correct. You are absolutely, correct. We aren't willing to give uh, God what we should. Feisty one, you are on live. Did you want to say something, or is that a mistake with your mic coming on? If not, I can mute your mic. Did you want to say something? Mistake. Okay, I will mute your mic. No worries. So, does anyone want to say anything or disagree with me or tell me I'm totally incorrect? If not, or if you do, you are more than happy to say something. Okay.
I think people use God as a convenience.
As a convenience for?
What I do, then all of a sudden they take leave of their senses and don't give a second thought to God.
Okay. All right. And you're absolutely right. That's something basically what Kim has just said, that we ask more of God than some of us are willing to give him. And Crucible Man, did you want to say something?
Yes, I had a couple of thoughts. First of all, on my belief in God. I mean, it's an ironic type of a thing. I've grown up Catholic all my life, Catholic school, altar boy, church every Sunday. Had a religious family, not super religious, but definitely believed in God. And I think I believe in God. I know that sounds contradictory, but there are times where I struggle. It seems a little too fantastical to me that he's capable of all the things we attribute to him. But that's kind of me maybe humanizing him and not treating him as the deity that he really is. But I think the other issue that I have, and I'm sure other people maybe struggle with it as well, is you're right. We do ask for the wrong things, or we do ask in the wrong way. I don't think asking for things is necessarily the right approach to God. That's just my own personal thought, because it seems selfish to me. So what I try to do with God is I try to just ask him to bless me, make me a better person, make me the person I've always wanted to be, but have always fallen short of. And so I try to avoid specific requests about, obviously money or a particular decision going my way. I find that to be a little bit self-indulgent, and I don't know that he would necessarily approve of that. So I try to keep it neutral, and I try to keep it on a just, blessings and good fortune type of a thing, and focus on me as a person and what I can do to make the world better. But I think the other thing we sometimes fall down on with God is we only invoke him when we're in times of crisis, rather than having an ongoing dialogue with him. Even when things are going well, it's easy to lose sight of God's role in your life. Only when we get into a crisis or we get into some kind of turmoil, we then turn to God, and suddenly we expect him to wave a magic wand. And obviously anybody over the age of 15 knows it doesn't work that way.
So let me ask you this. You said that you think you believe in God. Why do you think?
Because I struggle with it. I find it in a lot of ways too good to be true. I struggle sometimes to see God in my life. Without getting too personal, I've struggled, as a lot of people have, with some difficult stretches, some rough patches later in my life that I have a hard time attributing what did I do to contribute to this, and then I can kind of identify what I've done to contribute to the situation that I'm in. But there are times where I find the whole concept of God unbelievable. And I think that's where, and I used to have this conversation with my mother when she was still here, and she would say, well, that's where faith comes in. If you need constant proof that God exists, then you don't believe. It's when you really have your doubts and when you think God may be absent in your life is when you have to have the most faith, and that's when your faith is tested. And there are days where I'm really good at it, and there are days where I'm not so good at it.
Okay, all right, and I think that we can all say that there are days where it's good, and we're good at it, and days that it's not. Okay, Feisty One says we also choose to ignore God if it is not the answer we want to hear, and you are absolutely correct. I, for one, will attest that I have chosen to ignore him if he gives me the answer that I don't want to hear. Um, so I'm going to put this out here. I may be opening up a can of worms. Do you think that? And I did, mention this briefly at the beginning. Do you believe that we take God and have him? We use him. We use him to fit a narrative. And that's for anybody who may want to answer that one. No matter what type of narrative it could be, if it could be either political, educational, whatever.
I
When
think
I
the
say,
answer is yes. I think the answer is yes. We use him to fit our narrative, but I don't know that it's always intentional. Sometimes I believe it is unintentional. The end result is the same. We use it to fit our narrative, but I don't believe that it's always intentional.
okay, well, let me thank you, Feisty One, for saying that. Let me ask this. Um, what about people, when I say medical, what about people who choose not to go to doctors and either they get sick or their children get sick, and this is where you really need to take your child to a doctor, you really need to go to a doctor, and you say, I believe God will take care of me, he will heal me, but then that person dies or that person just turns for the worse, whatever. Don't you think that God uh don't you think that God also gives us common sense, and he put people and made it possible for people like doctors to be put on earth to help us with those illnesses, you know uh, to help heal us when we get sick. So what do you think about that when you're using God to fit a medical narrative? Does anyone want to answer that one? Because for me, I personally think that God gave us common sense, and he did put doctors on earth, you know to help us, that when we do get sick that we go to the doctor, to get that operation, or whatever. And I think that you know I guess selfish would be the wrong word, but sometimes I wonder, when people do that and say, I'm just going to pray over them, um that it's just wrong. It's like, you just shouldn't do that. Welcome, Shy Lady. Welcome, Shy Lady. So, does anyone want to? You think I'm wrong, or let's
I think
see?
that I think sometimes I stand in awe of people who have such faith, and I begin to question my own faith. Let's be very clear. I believe in God, but sometimes when I see people like that, where they believe that, like, that God will, show the way, and it'll all work out, I begin to question my own faith. It causes me to question my own faith, because I think, yeah, but God also gives you tools around you, resources around you. And
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, it's I don't know that there's an easy answer.
All right. And Betty talked. She wanted me to ask the question again. Basically, what I just to what I was saying was, what do you think about people who don't go to doctors when people they're either they get sick or their children get sick and it's evident that they need a doctor, but they say, I'm going to pray over my child, or I'm going to pray and God will make it better. That was the question that I had. Shy lady, did you want to say something? You asked for an invite. Okay. All right. So
I'm
no,
sorry.
no
I've had
problem.
problems with.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, so so my next question is, do you believe that God, whoever you may think God is, created heaven and earth? Do you believe that we just popped up one one day, or do you believe that there is a higher being that actually created the earth, who created man, who created the universe, that that there is a spiritual person out there who created all of this? Because to me, is if you believe that, then you also have faith that that same person is guiding you and helping you, and if that makes sense. Anybody? All right. So I will ask another question. Let's see, loaded question. As we talk about faith, what about those who believe extreme thoughts and think they are thoughts of God? Good question, feisty one. As we talk about faith, what about those who believe extreme thoughts and think they are thoughts of God? I think those people are just on the heels of 9/11. I think that those people are, for lack of a better word, I'll say I think those people are a bit crazy. I mean, are we, to inject politics into this? Are you saying people who may, like, the QAnon people who believe that you know God is in space or whatever, he's going to come come down and change everything? Or um uh are you talking about people who think that um the pandemic is here, and because God is angry and he's wiping people out? I mean, that question is, I mean, you can go to one extreme all the way over to another. So when you say extreme thoughts, can you give me an example? And that was for feisty one. Okay. For me, when, let's see, people who believe they will be rewarded with versions for crashing a plane, I think those people are crazy. I mean, because if you think of something, okay, so if people are going to have those type of extreme thoughts, then every time someone does something, I don't know, trying to think of a good example. I just had a thought and I just lost it. I'm looking at what you says. It crosses a line. Yes, it does. So do you think other religions are invalid, is what Chemist is asking me? No, I don't. Okay, let me ask this before I answer that question. And Betty asked, how far is extreme? When Chemist, when you say, do I think other religions are invalid? are you talking about people who may pray to a Buddha, or what do you
Are
mean by?
there are there extreme people or extreme religion?
That's a good question. I mean, can there be both? That some people are just so extreme that they attach themselves to a religion, or can you have a you know religious order that's so extreme that they have crazy thoughts, such as people being believe that they will be rewarded with virgins for crashing a plane. Um, and Betty, when you say okay, likely both. Okay, so Betty, when you say what is the criteria for saying that, are you saying the criteria for religion being extreme or people being extreme? Because I'm a little confused here. And thank you, Shy Lady, for liking the show. Thank you, everyone who has liked the show. Because, okay, when you look at something like 9/11, was that a religious act? Or, as we were talking about yesterday, was that just a terrorist act? Or do some people think that it was both?
I
So if
wanted
you're
to,
going to,
excuse me, sorry.
Shy Lady, want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say I think it's probably in my mind, it's it was a religious act in the form of terrorism to me, in my opinion. They were making a statement in the name of their God, and it turned out to be a terrorist act. So that's I don't think they probably thought that they were inflicting terror upon people. I think they believe that their religion is the one that everyone should be following, and those who don't obey will suffer in the name of their God the consequences. And they feel called and led to show non-believers, some of them, I'm not going to say all of them, but the ones that are extremists feel led to show others this is what happens when you don't follow the God that we serve. And it's happening over in Afghanistan now. There are some people who have the same religion over there, yet there are some that are extreme, like the Taliban, because anyone who knows the history of the last 20 years, they weren't in control, and they were all um, Islamic in terms of their religion, but they had you have some extremists and you had some who weren't, because women before were able to go to school, they were able to do things that most women do in other countries. But when the Taliban took over, it became more of an extreme the last few years. And they're extremists in um, biblical or Bible led type of practices. There are extremes there as well, in my opinion, as well as you know some of the Mormons who believe in having multiple wives. There's some who don't. So I think there's extremists in both. Or
Okay. Okay. So when you have someone who has multiple wives, do you think that they're using religion in order to um, uh, justify having more than one wife?
I believe so. I believe some of them think that that's the calling of their religion, to have more than one wife. And like I said, there are some people who practice what is it called, Mormonism. I don't know if that's what you could call their. I think the new word now they use is Jesus Christ of Latter Day Saints or something. But
Mm-hmm.
there are some people who have just one spouse, but there are some who are extremists who believe in having multiple wives because that's what, it's okay. It's written. somewhere in their book is written.
That's interesting. So I'm still, I'm looking at what Kim has said about thinking other religions are invalid, and I'm struggling with an answer for that because no, I don't think other religions are invalid. But I guess, thinking of what Shy Lady just said, that if they're extreme, then do they become invalid? You know, um, if you're making your religion uh, out to be something that will justify um, some of your beliefs, that just may be crazy. I've read parts of the Quran. I haven't read it all, but after 9/11, I with everything, people were, if you were Muslim, all the Muslim hate that was going on and what have you. And I read parts of it, and parts of it, it coincides with parts of the Bible. So, you look at it, and, that's why I say, when you start to have a religion to fit a narrative that may be violent or hurt other people and becomes extreme, um, you know, I don't, then I think that is invalid. And Feisty one says, so is it fair to say extremism exists in every religion? I would say yes. Yes. If you go to church on Sunday and, five people are sitting and listening, to the pastor or the reverend or the priest or whatever, and, he's giving his sermon, and, four of us hear one thing, but one person hears something entirely different. And that one person goes off the the deep end, you know, you know, that's why I ask, what do you interpret religion to be? If you, read the Bible and what have you, what is your interpretation of religion? Because, there are some religious people out there who under the, the, under the guise of Christianity, you know, they're hypocrites. So that's why I ask, what is religion? Um, and how important is God in your life? Who do you think God is, and how important is he to you? So, let's see. Betty wants to come in. No problem. Okay, Betty, you are on.
All right. To me, religion is a personal relationship with God. I don't believe that, though I'm a Christian, I don't believe that uh, people should really, you should do things for people to accept it. I believe you should do things that you feel God is okay with, right? So, and yes, I believe that.
Okay, Betty, I don't know if you're still talking because I just lost you. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay. Did you still want to say something? Because I just lost you. I don't know if your connection dropped. Okay, Betty, I can't hear you anymore. So you're more than welcome to come back on when your mic is working. Okay, so I want to, again, go back to Kim's question where he says, do you think other religions are invalid? And I want to, throw that out to anyone who may want to answer. Do you think other religions are invalid? Does anyone want to take a stab at that one? Okay, Feisty One says no. Am I on mute? Hold on. I mute people when they're not talking. So I unmuted you, and Crucible, you are on.
Yeah, hi. I don't think the religions are necessarily invalid. I don't know for sure because I'm most familiar with the religion I grew up with, but I think we all, if we believe in God, I think we believe in the same God. I think we may expect different things from him, just like the Taliban when they crash planes thinking they're going to get 72 virgins. That's what they grew up believing. So it's hard to say what somebody else grew up believing is less valid than something that I grew up believing. Obviously, I disagree with it. It's extreme, it's violent, and it hurts people. So that, I think, needs to be invalidated. The tactics need to be invalidated. But if somebody grew up believing that by behaving a certain way will result in a certain outcome with regard to God, it's hard to tell them that those beliefs are not valid. It's the tactics, I think, that they use to service those beliefs is where the invalidation may need to come in.
That makes a lot of sense. I would agree with that. So, okay, in terms of, people like the Taliban, and again, when you grow up believing a certain thing or you're taught a certain thing, it's hard to kind of, break away from it. But when you look at something like that, when you look at people who are extremists, be it in their religion or, in other things, do you think at some point they can really just look around and say, what I'm doing is wrong? Or do you think it's just so ingrained in them that, that they just, no matter what you say, they grew up believing this? Or, I'm going to open up another can of worms here. Just like, you may have some people who grew up in an abusive household. And when they get married, either they become the abuser or they, accept the abuse because that's all they knew. So do you think that people who are extremists, at some point a light bulb goes off and says, what I'm doing is wrong, this is a little bit too left field, or whatever, I need to rein it in?
Well, I think for people like the Taliban and people that are that extreme, they're so isolated from the rest of the world. They live in such an insulated environment that their beliefs, as extreme as they can be, are only reinforced by other people. They're never challenged by anyone because they don't really interact with the rest of the world. So it's hard to conceive of them ever believing that their beliefs are really extreme because they don't tend to put a lot of stock in outside opinions or anything the Western world would seem to believe in. So I think it's difficult for them to come around to any kind of reconciliation that, hey, this is crazy, when that's all they've ever known, number one. And number two, they show absolutely no inclination toward verifying or quantifying, is what I believe something I should believe, at least to the extreme extent to which I believe it. So I guess
Okay,
the
well,
question, I said the answer would be no.
okay, well then let me throw this question out there, since we're talking about the Taliban. Okay, so the United States has been in Afghanistan for 20 years, and in those 20 years, you have, um, people who were born, after the United States, came in, and they didn't experience some things that their parents may have experienced. They didn't experience, girls were able to go to school. Things were a lot better. Now, the Taliban is still there. They're sitting back and they're watching all of this. Um, I guess what I'm asking is, the Taliban is still there. They're sitting back and they're watching this. At some point, do you think that they would say, well, hey, this is working. We don't need to go in there and, pull women out of, schools, or if they're working, tell them to go back home. We see how this is helping this country. Does that make sense? Anybody? So
So here's my thing. I think that it's not as easy as that. I think that when you have somebody who's grounded in a belief that they've been raised in, it's not as simple as saying, well, look, this is working. Because I do believe much of that training, if you will, lends itself to saying you will have outsiders telling you this isn't right. This isn't the right way. This isn't true, right? And so I don't know it's as simple as them seeing, oh, this works, so it's wonderful. Do you get what I'm saying? I think you're asking them to set years of indoctrination aside because something's working. And I'm not sure it's that simple. I mean, it would be wonderful if it was, but I just don't think it is.
okay, all right, that's fair. Um, you know, I know it's not that simple, but sometimes, when I look at people and I listen to them, or if I'm, having a conversation with them, or if I'm watching something on TV, or reading something, or if I'm just, in the grocery store and I see something and I look, and I'm always saying, well, is it me, or is this person just not getting it? And I know that for Feisty One, which you just said, makes a lot of sense. But, you know, if you're an outsider looking in and you see something that is either good or you see something that is bad, and you're living in that area or environment, don't you think that it would affect you in some type of way, either to lean more towards the good side, or possibly if you see something bad going on, that you're going to lean towards the bad side? I mean, it's just like, you tell your kids, don't hang around with people who, are not doing the right thing. So, does that make sense, or am I just kind of talking? I'm trying to make a point. I am trying to make a point here. But I don't know. When you have religion, I just tend to see where more and more, and again, in today's society, that people are trying to use it to fit a narrative, and we're trying to use it for our own purposes, as opposed to, going to God and just thanking him and letting him, be the one. I am well, thank you, Ram. Okay, Kima says, right, they see modern Sodom and Gomorrah, and if no one will combat it, they will. That's the mentality. Okay, I think right now, with the way the world is going right now, we are kind of Sodom and Gomorrah. You have the people who, like Lot, who God said, don't turn around, don't look back. You have the people that are looking back, that I think are going to be the ones that, turn into salt, at the end of the world. And you're going to have the ones that, didn't look back, and maybe God will give us another chance. I don't know. Um, but when when I see people use religion to fit a narrative, um, I don't know. So, does anyone else want to make a comment? Agree with me? Disagree with me? Anyone? Okay, Crucible Man, you are unmuted. Did you want to say something, or was that a mistake? Okay, I am going to mistake. Okay. All right. So, sorry I'm late to the show. What's the topic or question? We're just talking about God and extremism. So, how important, is he in your life? Who do you think, God is? Um, you know, so, I do have a last question on this, on my tagline here. Do you go it alone? Okay, Crucible Man has a thought. What is your thought?
I think we maybe on the same wavelength there, Solid Blue, because what I was about to say was, I think for me personally, and I think probably for everybody, and I don't know if your question about going it alone pertains to what I'm about to say, but I have found, and I don't do it nearly often enough, I have found that when I am around people of faith, people who really, really believe, unwaveringly believe in ways that I have struggled to believe. And to Feisty One's point earlier about being in awe of people who really believe, I really wish I could emulate them, but I find being around them does bolster my faith, because I'm able to kind of feed off of what they're believing in. And I had a business partner a few years ago who was very, 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 very religious, in a good way, not in a fanatical way, but in a good way. And there were times when, we would struggle in our business, or I was struggling in my personal life, and I'd say, there's times I don't believe in God because, my mother is no longer on earth. And I said, if she were in heaven, she would not be allowing these things to happen to me. So that's why I question God's existence, because my mother's not here anymore, and I know she wouldn't allow these things to be happening to me if she were in heaven looking down on me. And he made a comment that has always stuck with me. He said, well, how do you know she's not in heaven and things couldn't be a lot worse for you if she weren't up there looking down on you? So it's kind of a version of that. It can always be worse sort of a thing, but he came at it from a different perspective, and I got to thinking, well, maybe that is one way of trying to have better faith, is not always looking at why do so many bad things happen to me, but maybe things could be much worse. And maybe the fact that God or one of my parents or somebody I love who's not on earth anymore is looking down on me, maybe that person has helped me avoid even further problems.
All right. Well, okay, hold on. Let me read this real quick. Bahram says, I'm on that journey, and to me, it's clear there is a creator, and it's clear that our world leaders believe in a God and Satan, mostly Satan. But I also don't think our religious text should be taken literal. Okay, and Feisty One says a lesson of sorts. Okay, so to Crucible Man, just to pick up on what you just said, do you think that some of the things that are happening or happened in your life was more of, God answering your prayers, but He was also teaching you? It was also, I don't want to say teaching a lesson, but it was also, something where this is happening to you, but is happening to you for a reason. Because I am one who, for me personally, I believe that things happen for a reason. And I believe that God is behind the things that happen to us. And when you sit down and you just really think about it and you just go through the things that happen, you can kind of see God there. You can see Him, and you can see like why He allowed this to happen to you. Did He allow this to happen to you so you can get to another part of your life that is better, but you had to go through this in order, you had to go through that struggle in order to get to the next place?
I do believe that. But a lot of times when people think about God's role, did God deliberately not give you what you wanted, or deliberately, put something in your path that you didn't want to be there? Is that a lot of times we attribute that to karma, when people talk about good karma and bad karma, and when you do bad things or you do things that would displease God and something bad happens to you, I don't know how many people, and I include myself in this, I don't know how many people stop and think, well, God is displeased with me, or they chalk it up to some cosmic doings about karma. And is karma similar to God, looking unfavorably or disfavorably on something that you've done? I think a lot of people don't look at God that way. They just chalk it up to karma. And is it somewhat the same thing?
Now, see, okay, you make a good point, and I think that God and karma go hand in hand. I think that God is karma. You know, I do believe that sooner or later the things that you may get away with this now, you may get away with it in the year 1990, but all of a sudden something happens in 2010, and you look back and you're like, well, damn. Is this I thought I had gotten away with this for the last 20, 30 years, but now it's coming back. I think that God and karma are pretty much the same thing, and that we all sooner or later we answer for the things that we have done, either good things or bad things. We have to answer to. And, for me, I can honestly say that in my own personal life, some things that, that I did knowing that I shouldn't. And it came back to me. And when it came back to me, I did think, okay, you know, um, this is, this is, you know, this is God telling me. Um, I was talking to someone the other day, and Tammy Faye Baker came up, and I used to work for Tammy Faye, and she not only was one of the nicest people that I had ever met, but she was also um, very humble. And what I mean by that is that she said, um, when she got cancer, and cancer kind of came on her, kind of fast, whatever, and she was talking about her ex-husband, she said the things that we did were wrong. She said, Jimmy went to jail and I got cancer. And she accepted that. So I think that you have things in your life that happen for a reason. And God is saying, okay, you're going to have all this now, or I'm going to allow you to do all this now, but sooner or later it's going to be payback time, or sooner or later, you're going to have to answer. And I think that however he chooses to do it, we do. He does answer us in some type of way. So let's see. Agreed. Karma is. I use that term a lot. Karma. Karma's gonna come back. Some people say karma is a bitch. Whatever. But you know, in our lifetime, if you just look back on your life, if you just look back on when you were little, and some of the things that you did and you got in trouble for, and you thought you got away with it, whatever, do you attribute it to just your mom or dad finding out you got in trouble? Or is it something that, if you think about it, it was like, okay, God had a hand in that? Because I do believe that God has a hand in everything that we do. No matter how much success you have, God has a hand in it. And even when things are not going right, I believe God has a hand in it, that he is there, and that, again, I say things happen for a reason. And sometimes, we aren't living right. for whatever reason, and God is just saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to say this, or I'm sorry, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to put this obstacle in your way to get you on a better track. Alice the maid, you made it. Welcome. You know, does anyone think that I'm wrong about, saying that karma and God are kind of hand in hand, or does anybody have a thought on that? No? Okay. All right.
I do.
Okay, shy lady.
Um, I believe that, what you reap what you sow. That's in the Bible. And so I guess you can say that's karma. You reap what you sow. But I also believe that everyone, regardless of race, economic background, education, I believe everybody who exists will go through trials and tribulations. And that's what the Bible states, that there will be trials and tribulations regardless of who you are. And sometimes good things happen to bad people, and sometimes bad things happen to good people, but there's always reasons why. Not sure why God allows some things to happen, but I definitely believe you reap what you sow. And I want to go back to an earlier statement made about religion. Um, the top religions in as far as number and followers is Christianity, followed by Islam. And I have read the Quran as well as the Bible. I do have family members who are both. And Islam, I don't know if a lot of people know, but Islam was started 600 years after uh, the Bible's existence. So that's why you see a lot of similarities, because Islam have a lot of things that they've taken from the Bible to form their own religion, and even the names are the characters in both the Bible and Islam are the same. They've changed the names or the spellings, but they're pretty much the same. And follow after Islam is, I believe, Hinduism and Buddhism. So most of the world have some type of religion, and depending on what you believe, that's up to you and God. But for me, I'm a Christian, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay. All right. I'm going to, I'm looking at Bahram's statement again. And when you say you're on that journey, do you mean that you're on that journey in terms of discovering who God is, or if he has a place in your life? What journey are you on? And then for Feisty One, you say, could it be guilt? Guilt for,
Rather than karma, could it simply be guilt? I believe that we all have a conscience, and when we do things that are wrong, we're well aware of it. And I just wonder sometimes if it's simply guilt.
so do you think that, so, but do you think that karma exists? Do you think there is a such thing as karma, either good karma or bad karma?
I think you reap what you sow, if you want to call that karma. Yeah, because but I don't. It's not exact. Meaning, I think that when things come back on you, they don't come back on you the way you necessarily dished it out. So I do think there are lessons there. If you call that karma, yeah, karma, reap what you sow.
Okay. Do you believe in the book of Revelations?
I believe in the Bible, so yes, that's part of it.
Okay. Do you think I'm off base when I say that we may be at end of days?
That's tougher for me to answer. I think when you look at the way things are happening now, they're at what I would call an extreme, um, more extreme than I've ever seen them in my lifetime. But I don't know if you label it as end of times. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Okay. Okay. And Bahram says, God is all loving and all forgiving. So how can you say reap what you sow? Okay. So when you say, okay, reap what you sow, um, or karma. Okay. I do believe, God is all loving and he is all forgiving. And when you reap what you sow, don't you think it's more like, well, if you're going to treat someone this way, then this is going to happen. And then Bahram says that implies that there is consequences. Um, okay, so let me ask this. Yes, God is all loving and all forgiving, but don't you believe that if you are someone who refuses to repent, or at the end of your life, you know um you know when God comes back, if you believe that he will come back, do you do you not think that if we do not repent for our sins, he may forgive us, but there's a consequence, and that consequence may be that instead of going to heaven, that we go to hell? I'm just throwing that out there. Anybody?
I think there has to be an order. In other words, I think, yeah, if you want to call it a consequence, I do think there are consequences for actions, whether they're good consequences or bad consequences. I think there are always consequences to behavior, right? And so, yeah, God is almighty and he's forgiving, and I do believe that. But because somebody's forgiving doesn't necessarily mean there isn't a punishment for something you've done. I love my children. They do something wrong, there is a consequence for it. Doesn't mean I love them any less.
Right. That's a good way to that's spicy one. That's a good way to put it. Bahram says, I think this is the type of thing that has been corrupted by those in power to make us feel like we need to behave accordingly. Kimma says, I get what she's saying. It's the idea that a guilty conscience will get the best of you. And Alice DeMate says, I have to figure out how y'all can hear me. Okay, if you want to talk, Alice, I have to send you an invite, and I am doing that now. So you can come on and you can speak if you like. Um, but reap what you sow is in the Bible. You know, you know, and do not be deceived. Um, a man reaps what he sows. So I do believe that God is telling us that there will be a consequence.
I'd like to add to that, Solid Blue Sister. Definitely, that is a Bible verse. You reap what you sow. There has to be consequences in life, because if you don't have any type of consequences for what you do, people will do anything. They'll do anything and everything, and think just because they believe in God does not mean you have the right to do whatever you want. And then if you say, "Oh, I made a mistake. I don't think I should have done that," you're just not going to automatically get a pat on the back and say, from God, at least in my opinion, and say, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's all right," and then that person does it again. It's just not the way that things of order are. There's a reason for God's laws, and there's a reason why we have laws in society, because you just can't do what you want and not expect to reap what you sow.
So do you believe that you know that not only is there a heaven, that there is also a hell?
Yes, I do believe that. I believe there's a heaven and there's a hell.
Okay. And Allison May, you are on. If you want to say something. Okay, so you should have a little button that looks like a mic, and you click on that, and it'll give you the opportunity to speak. I did send you an invite, and you should be able to come on.
Okay. See, my mic is turned off.
Okay, now you are on. We can hear you.
Okay. Let me be quiet. Hello.
Okay. Did you want to say something?
Well, I've just been listening. I think that people misuse karma because the way I was taught that it was an Indian thing, whatever it was, in those Asian countries, and so that was something you would get in the future. You might come back as an insect or something else. So that was their caste system. So I don't like when people use karma. I don't think that we say it the way it is, the way it was originally meant to be. That's all.
Okay, so then you don't like when I say something like, "Is there good and bad karma?"
I think it's not the correct way to say it. That's all I'm saying. From what I was taught, there is I don't think that there is something that you do nasty to someone else right now and the next day you're going to get in a car accident or something like that. I don't think that's the way karma works. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, all right. And I think Ram is agreeing with you. He says karma is a Buddhist belief in regards to reincarnation.
Right. That's what so Americans have turned it around anyway.
All right. All right. Well, that's what this show does. It gives everyone an opportunity to speak. Do you believe that there should be consequences if you do something wrong? At the end of life, do you believe that there is a heaven and a hell?
I was listening and I have to think about that. I'm not sure there is. My mother was such a strong believer in religion, and she's turned around and she's completely changed. She doesn't think that anyone's going to get what they deserve in the afterlife because we see so many nutty people getting away with nonsense in the here and now. So she said, forget it. I mean, these people just, they get away with murder and they walk away. So yeah, we could sing our Negro spirituals and do all kinds of things, but um, I don't know. We're still. I mean, I don't know. What do you want for someone to pass away, then say they're in hell? We don't know that. So I hope I'm making a point.
No, you are. You are. You are. Does anyone want to agree or disagree with what Alice just said?
Well, there's a lady. Who is this? Oh, hi, lady.
Okay, Shy Lady says, I get what Alice is saying. Okay, all right. So people are understanding you. People are
Mhm.
understanding you. All right. Well, guys, again on this show, I like to bring up topics that, make us think and again, disagree or agree, whatever. But, everyone, you have your own personal, point of view, whatever. But that's all I've got. So does anyone have anything else they want to say before I wrap it up?
Yeah, you know what? Let's talk about the Oh, she's a good show. Let's talk about what went on in California and how they tried to overturn that guy so that then they could overturn the Senate.
All right. You know what? I will make that for another show. I absolutely promise it will probably be next week because I do want me being in California and me casting my vote.
I was
I
wondering
do.
how you felt about that.
I voted no, but
Mhm.
I will make that for a show next week because I do want to talk about it. But tomorrow's show is going to be a fun show. Tomorrow's show is going to be a fun show, and I'm calling it Dear Abby. So, we talk about all this serious stuff, whatever. Tomorrow, since this is my last show of the week, it is going to be a fun show. So, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it so much. So, until tomorrow, I always speak your truth. I am Solid Blue Sister. This is my turn to talk, and I will see you hopefully tomorrow. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Crucible Man and Allison Maid. I so appreciate it. And I always love when people participate. Feisty One says, thank you for stimulating conversation. I do try. That's okay. It's okay. If you're late, you still were able to make your point. I don't have a problem with that. And I will do the California Recall Show. I will do that one. I will actually probably do that one on Monday. So I do have a couple of things I want to say on that. And as I said, I voted no. And Alice, you are going to have to join more of the shows because I know you have a lot to say. And that's it. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.